This radio show is a paid placement. Welcome to Wealth Michigan with the McIntoshes. I'm Mark Elliott. Mindy McIntosh, the founder and president of McIntosh & Associates, started the company back in 2004. Husband Nolan McIntosh, he'll help you with your market investments. One of the biggest questions we all face right now, are we taking too much risk in our portfolio, or maybe not even taking enough risk? We got scared and we went all cash. Well, that might not be the right thing either. The question is, are you taking the right amount of risk for yourself? Nolan and the team at McIntosh & Associates are here to help. And there's so many moving parts in retirement. That's really the challenge. There's income, investment, taxes, healthcare, legacy, estate planning, Social Security, Medicare. There's so many moving parts that the team at McIntosh & Associates is here to help kind of be your co-pilot, if you will. You're the pilot, they're the co-pilot. You're the CEO, they're the CFO. They're here to help guide you, make sure you don't make some of the common mistakes that they've certainly seen, but they're here to look out for your situation. How can they improve your retirement outlook, maybe? How do they make sure, and you can't make sure, but how do they give you a better chance to make sure that your money doesn't run out before you run out of life? 877-222-8849 is the number. 877-222-8849. There's no cost, no obligation to chat with the team. And if you want to find out more, just go to the website, wealthmichigan.com. Wealthmichigan.com. All right, Mindy, we've made it through Thanksgiving, Christmas on the horizon, New Year's and a new year. How's the year gone for the team at McIntosh & Associates?
I don't know where the time goes. I know all of our clients and loved ones and family say, just wait. As you continue to get older, the time just is going to go by faster and faster. And now here we are, on the 9th day of Christmas, I call it, as we're doing this fun little calendar with the girls prior to Christmas. I just cannot believe that we're this far into 2021. And really, if you look back, it's been quite a whirlwind of a year.
The pandemic never ends, it seems. Global supply chain shortages are leading to rising prices around the globe in 2021. Retirement issues were in the center of it all as Congress did a few things, pumped a lot of stimulus money into the economy, took a hard look at strategies and tools we use to save for retirement. So we're going to look at some of the biggest retirement news of the year. And Mindy, I'll start with you. The supply chain problems, massive government spending have contributed to higher inflation. Inflation has not even been on our radar for a while. But I think in the spring it was over 5%. In the fall it got over 6%. Talk about the potential impact higher inflation can have on our retirement over time.
Well, the tough thing there is as we see inflation go up, or, even if as we might enter into a period of hyperinflation, the problems that we see is that most folks, even during their working years, let alone retirement, you're not normally or naturally getting a ton of raises. And during your working years, when your income and your payroll is going up, and let's say you're paying down debt, paying off mortgages, helping put children through college and such, you're not saving a ton outside of what you've been diligent into putting into usually your company's 401k plan. So as it talks about the savings and inflation, when you move into a more of a distribution phase, as we help many folks bridge the gap into retirement, their key factor normally is income. Where's my income going to come from? So as we take a look at what they're going to be receiving from Social Security, that naturally normally is not going to pay bills in retirement, let alone when we see them still in a lot of folks in their go-go years, taking care of grandchildren, maybe doing camping or taking vacations, doing things that they want to do that obviously cost money, but all the while their normal household good, cost of living, everyday bills just continue to rack up, and it's very hard to have that income continue to increase with that. So it's so important to plan for the inflation increases in the future. We see that happening, and how are folks going to be able to continuously draw more income to sustain themselves so they're not running out of money prematurely in retirement? So we really take a big picture and a big look at that as part of what we call our Dream Focus Wealth Plan here, to say, look, today's income is sustaining your needs, let's say, but in 5 years from now, this is how we're going to exponentially give you some additional guaranteed income from some vehicles that we can utilize, and really make sure that folks understand that in retirement, they can't live on less than what they're living on today normally. And how do we walk through that to educate and continue to, intervene and help them along that path?
So the Dream Focused Wealth Plan, it starts with a discovery meeting. So Mindy and Nolan and the team got to sit down and just kind of find out what are your hopes and dreams, what do you want to do, how are you going to spend your time. Then they do analysis of your portfolio. They come up with a solution, and then you guys agree. I mean, you guys are working together. Remember that. This is not Nolan and Mindy saying you have to do this. This is you telling them what you want to do, and they look at your portfolio to see if they can help. And that's really all it is right there. And then you put a plan in place, and the plan is not written in stone. It's got to be able to kind of live and breathe like you do. Things happen. So it's always a maneuvering here or there. The markets did this, the markets did that. Hey, inflation's doing this. We got to adjust this. There's always things that we're moving around in this Dream-Focused Wealth Plan. But it is about you and your situation. I think it would give you maybe some clarity and some confidence moving forward. If you'd like to learn more, just give the team at McIntosh & Associates a call. There's no cost for this. 877-222-8849. 877-222-8849. Another big news story of the year, Nolan, was Social Security. Because of that inflation that Mindy was just talking about, it was a 5.9% cost of living adjustment for Social Security benefits in 2022. I just turned 62. I was not going to take Social Security, but with that kind of cash inflow, I'm good to go now, right?
Yeah, you'd like to think that. Well, twofold here. I mean, a lot of people are, okay, we got a cost of living adjustment, but really right now, inflationary rates they're saying are at 6.1%, so you're still not hedging inflation fully. And then the other thing that people forgot is that if you're on Medicare costs went up. So now you're paying a lot more for your Medicare plan than you were prior as well. So all of that 5.9% basically, and then some, is taken up by Medicare Part B premiums if you're 65 and older. So it's one of those things that, yeah, it's great, right? We love it that people are going to be able to get it. It's not normal. I mean, the average rate is not nearly that high. I think it's less than inflationary rates. I mean, I think the average is 1.65%, I think, if you look at it over the years on the cost of living adjustments there. But yes, it's great that we got that, but we continually are going to see that obviously cost of goods and things of that nature are still going to continue to rise. So Social Security is usually not enough for somebody to supplement their income. It's a supplement. It's not necessarily going to satisfy all their income. So, people ask us all the time, what's going to happen with Social Security? Is it going away? And, Mindy and I's opinion is it's going to change, right? They've changed it over the years, how you can draw withdrawal strategies, things of that nature, when's full retirement versus not. And so they keep changing some of those rules, but we don't think it's going away. It's just they're going to continue to change those rules so that way it can still continue to help supplement people's income. But it's one of those things that, yeah, it's strained, and we're going to continue to see that, especially with this cost of living adjustment that we've seen that's bigger now. But yeah, it's definitely a part of our strategy that we look at too, because if we're looking at a tax plan, maybe we don't start drawing Social Security. If you're working, maybe we do look at Social Security. Like you said, Mark, if you're 62 and you're working, it doesn't make much sense a lot of times to draw because it's going to be reduced unless you're at the full retirement age. So there's a lot of different factors that go into when we look at Social Security timing strategies for people on what they should do. So it's always the same thing that you should just start drawing at 62. It just depends on people's situation on what we should do there.
So if you have questions about that, or Medicare, I mean, the team at McIntosh & Associates can help you in both of these areas. 877-222-8849, 877-222-8849. Final thing, just a couple minutes left in our first segment. We still got a lot to get to today on the program. But, Mindy, the PayPal co-founder, Peter Thiel, was reported to have $5 billion saved in his Roth IRA. We've talked about this before, and he started with $2,000. Put $2,000 in his Roth IRA, and then being super smart, I guess, and buying PayPal with his Roth IRA, he turned it into $5 billion. Well, most of us can't do that. But there was a lot of talk because of that. Congress kind of freaked out and said, holy cow, this isn't right. We might have to do away with Roth. I don't see that happening at all. But really, Roth could benefit the average retirement saver, right? Not just the Peter Thiels of the world.
Absolutely. Anything that you're putting either contributing to a Roth or doing a Roth conversion to, when we take a look at inflation being on the rise, even if we just look at it for that one reason, if inflation is going up and you need more income in retirement, tax-free growth is going to be better. Why? When you draw the money out to actually use as income, you don't have to pay taxes. So with either doing a conversion or a contributory Roth IRA or contributory Roth 401k, it is, yes, you're not getting that nice reduction or break in taxes today, but it is futurely growing tax-free, and you draw the money out income tax-free as well. So it's just nice to know if you're in a 22% tax bracket, it's very nice to keep that 22% when you're drawing and not have to pay that out in taxes to the IRS. So for that reason alone, it can just help kind of tip the needle a little bit, even as we're talking about inflation today, or even income. That over time and that compounded growth can also produce more that you can draw later. Or, what if you don't want to have that account be something that you're mandated to draw from and push up an IRMA Medicare tax or push up income later in retirement? We have many folks that might not need that money when they're actually drawing at required minimum distribution age at 72. So there's so many factors. For those that are young out there listening, even if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, still working, really want to contribute to the Roth if you can. And then in retirement, it just kind of pushes out that income needle for you.
877-222-8849 to chat with the team about any of this. There's a lot of moving parts. We're going into a new year. There are things maybe you should be doing. There might be some things you should be doing before the end of the year. Time's running out, obviously. 877-222-8849. Mindy Nolan, the team at McIntosh & Associates, here to help. And if you want to do a little more research on Mindy and Nolan, always go to their website, wealthmichigan.com. A lot of information right there, wealthmichigan.com. Just getting started on Wealth Michigan with the McIntoshes. Mindy and Nolan back right after this.
Who will help you get there? Wherever you want to go and whatever you want to do in retirement, McIntosh & Associates can help you get there. You do the dreaming, they do the planning. It's your retirement, but you need a guide. As you approach retirement, McIntosh & Associates can make sure you're on the path to retire on your terms. And once you're retired, they'll help you stay on course. Think of it as a roadmap for your retirement. The team at McIntosh & Associates wants you to have the retirement you've worked so hard for. Come in and meet with them today. They'll help you create a retirement roadmap that's tailored to your dreams, your lifestyle, and long-term financial goals. Call today at 877-222-8849 and schedule a visit. Call 877-222-8849. That's 877-222-8849. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Get started today to develop your own dream-focused wealth plan with the team at McIntosh & Associates. Schedule a complimentary first visit today. Call 877-222-8849.
Welcome back to Wealth Michigan with the McIntoshes, Mindy and Nolan. Mindy started the company in 2004. Nolan joined the company in 2018 after his time in the PT and athletic training world. We're glad you're with us today. If you want to find out more about the team at McIntosh & Associates, and remember, here's what they're here to do. They're here to make sure that you have a plan for your retirement, whether it's income strategies, investment strategies, healthcare strategies, tax-efficient strategies, legacy, estate planning. Well, when and how in the world do I figure out when to take Social Security? How do I do that? Well, they can help me with that. What about Medicare? So many options in that world. And don't forget, you have another opportunity for Medicare every year, January 1 through March 31st, as well as the annual election period is always October 15th through December 7th. A lot of moving parts. There's a lot of moving parts in retirement. That's why Mindy started this company to help people just like you have a strategy, have a plan when it comes to retirement. 877-222-8849 if you'd like to chat with the team. There's no cost for this. They're here to help. Just don't know if they can until they hear from you. 877-222-8849. And, of course, you can always find out more on their website, wealthmichigan.com. wealthmichigan.com. Mindy, if I Googled retirement planning or investing or tax planning or budgeting, would I come up with any results, you think, if I just Googled those topics?
Maybe about thousands.
Yes, or even more, maybe hundreds of thousands.
More, probably hundreds of thousands, depending on if you're segmenting by area or just a basic Google search. Lots and lots of information out there about many avenues of this nature. And really, I think we need to bring it to the foundation of some things that can happen even at, school age, so that more education is happening prior to people nearing retirement. I'm going to be participating starting in January. It's called Junior Achievement here in Freeland, and it talks about folks earning money and income and that type of thing. So it's pretty neat, and tells kids how to be entrepreneurish or to save money and, what a bank is and that type of thing. So we need to start early.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Well, there are important facts to know when it comes to retirement planning, right? And when it comes to your financial future, we always think, well, the more we know, the better off we're going to be. And knowledge is power. We all know that. But there is more to financial success than book smarts. There is a psychology of money. And that's what we're going to talk about for the next two segments, the psychology of money. And Morgan Housel is a partner at Collaborative Fund. He's a former columnist at The Motley Fool and The Wall Street Journal. He's the author of the book, The Psychology of Money. And he says there's more to financial success than just what you know about money and the world of finance.
But I think there's so much evidence that what matters in investing is not about what you know. It's not about how smart you are. It's not about where you went to school. It's just how you behave. It's about your relationship with greed and fear, your ability to take a long-term mindset, who you trust, how gullible you are, who you seek your information from. That's what actually matters. That's what moves the needle. And we tend to ignore that because it is not analytical.
So, Mindy, what do you think of that? Greed and fear and the way we look at money, and everybody's different, I think. That's probably what's so fun when you sit down with couples or individuals talking about their retirement. Everybody's got a little bit different viewpoint, don't they?
Everyone has such a different viewpoint, and just, that emotional response that folks have is very different. Some folks just want protection, right? So they want to know that they have security, somewhere to lean on, and somewhere to trust. I'd say more so than anything, people just want to come somewhere where they can come in here, sit down with us one-on-one, take a look at what's important to them, and then, what are they fearful of, and what are they looking to do? But on the flip side of things, as he talks about, greed, if you're chasing the almighty dollar, that's never healthy. In my opinion, for anyone, you need to have a different type of driving force. You got to find the why and then seek out the advice of those who, have that area of expertise or that are really looking to solve your why. It's not a cookie cutter. It's not a one glove fits all for everyone. So it's very situational and it's evolving, right? So 2021, there's been changes and there will continue to be changes. And we need to make sure that we can walk through that as part of our Dream Focus Wealth Plan with folks. So call our office here at 877-222-8849. Let's find out what's important to you, what's been worrying you, or, what you're kind of optimistic about.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things. I met with a couple clients this week, and sometimes I use this terminology and kind of getting back to that greed statement. I said, well, 2 or 3% gain in your money for the emotional distress you have to watch it go up and down as far as your risk goes. Well, 2 or 3% more gains in your money make a lifestyle difference for you. And they're like, well, no. I said, well, then why are we taking this much risk? If you know that we can lower the risk, you're not going to have as much an emotional response to that. And yet we can satisfy your needs by having communication with you, showing you visually the plan that needs to come in place to help you guys solve for those income needs. Why wouldn't you just want to do it that way instead of just chasing the dollar? So I think that's part of the key too, is I think sometimes people get caught up in talking to their neighbors and saying, well, I earned that and I earned this and I earned that. Well, maybe they're okay with that, but maybe you're not. If you're not, then we shouldn't be looking to our neighbor to say, hey, this is what our gain should be. We should be looking at ourselves internally, not getting an emotional response out of it. Just like Morgan said, we shouldn't be looking at it from a fear and greed standpoint. We should be looking at it as, are our daily needs met? And if that's the case, then, that's a pretty good life in my opinion.
So you got $1 million in the market, for example, and Nolan says, hey, are you okay if you lose 20%? Sure, that's no big deal. I got $1 million, so I'm good. And then he goes, you're okay with losing 200,000? Well, no. Well, that's 20%. So when you put it into dollars, sometimes it changes our outlook. And Nolan, one of the things I think is really interesting is you go back to 2007 to 2009, the banking and housing financial crisis, where people were losing 40, 50% of their money in the market. Mm-hmm. And people certainly got scared at that point and went to cash. Well, they missed the comeback, and it took a while for that one, certainly. But in that time frame, people were going, I'm never going to be able to retire. I just lost half my money. Fast forward to 2020, pandemic, much shorter because it was an event-driven market crash. It wasn't because of the internal running of the markets and the banking and housing financial world, all that kind of stuff. The pandemic led to well over 1 million more people than expected retiring because it became life and death. They're like, holy cow, I think maybe we could just go ahead and retire. Two totally different mindsets from two different scenarios, but those are two opposite ends. I never will retire. I'm retiring now.
Yeah, and that's because I think it was a blurb. I think that's the hard part is that, 07 through 09, people, that's a lasting memory because you're right, it took so long for the market to bounce back to its original values. 2020, different story. It went down quicker than it's ever seen in history, but it also came back faster than it did in history. So I think a lot of people are like, man, I dodged something there. I have the capability to possibly be able to retire. Can I do it? If we can, we're pulling the trigger. And I think a lot of people just realized that. And I think some of the emotional response with COVID, things of that nature, got people thinking about it. So I think that's the biggest swing that we've seen is just, I think, just like the market just, and that's why it's so important that we have to play the game a little bit, but we always want to stay in the game. It's one of those things we don't want to come out of the game ever because it's one of those things that we never know what's going to happen the next day. So financial crisis, yes, different from the 2020 pandemic. We never know when the next one's coming though, right? So that's why we always say from a risk strategy standpoint, if we don't know what's coming next, then we better make sure that we're appropriately doing what we're supposed to be for risk, and therefore not have everything in the market and not have everything in cash either, because inflationary concerns are here as well. So we can't do that as well. So we have to make sure that we're holistically looking at things to make sure that we're satisfying all those needs.
So, Mindy, this next quote from Morgan Housel, or next comment that I'm going to play from Morgan Housel, the author of the book The Psychology of Money, is for you. So pay attention, because he is talking about, he thinks we have it basically backwards with how we teach about finance.
What is most important gets most ignored in this field. And even when we are teaching basic financial skills to people, it's the math equations and how to balance a checkbook, which are great skills. I'm not demeaning those in the slightest. But there's so much evidence that all that matters, that's the right word to use, is your behavior with money. And I say that because you can be the smartest person in the world. You can have a PhD in finance from MIT. But if you lose your head during a market decline, if you panic during a market decline, none of your intelligence matters.
To me, it's always interesting, and I know, Mindy, for you've been doing this since 2004. So you have people that come in that maybe their grandparents grew up during the Great Depression, and so their whole family was every dollar is precious. Then you have other people that come in that you're like, oh, slow down a little bit here. You're going to be retired for 30 or so years. We need to make sure your money lasts. They just kind of go through money very quickly. And so it's really interesting that the way, and you talked about being able to start this in January where you're actually teaching juniors about, money and how to handle it, because to me, my schooling didn't do me justice as far as this type of stuff, learning about money and how it works, how to make it, how to save it, how to do all of that.
Sure. And I think that, he's talking about the emotional response. If you start to panic when the market's, going down, you decide, oh my gosh, I don't want to invest at all. I'm not contributing to my accounts. I want everything in cash. I'm so nervous. And you just start stashing away money in your bank account. And all of a sudden now 2 years have gone by, 5 years have gone by. What you've lost, right? So the time and that compound interest. If that's you out there and you're thinking, gosh, I'm pretty conservative, or thinking I'm way over my head and spending too much every single day, then there's some ways that we can make sure that you pay yourself first. Some books we can get in your hands, some philosophies that we utilize here to get on the right track. And then once things become repetitive in nature, we become creatures of habit. So sometimes it's just having that plan, focusing on that. So call our office here at McIntosh & Associates at 877-222-8849, or check us out on the website, schedule a time, and let's just have that discovery visit.
And the wealthmichigan.com is the website, wealthmichigan.com. And the Dream Focused Wealth Plan starts with a discovery meeting. Well, the discovery meeting is so the team at McIntosh & Associates, Mindy, Nolan, and the team can find out about your hopes, your dreams, your bucket list. What do you want to do? And then figure out where the income's going to come from. Investment strategies, tax-efficient strategies, health and long-term care planning, legacy and estate planning. Well, what about Social Security? It's in the income part. What about Medicare? It's in the healthcare part. That's a lot of moving pieces to this puzzle. And when you think about when you're putting a puzzle together, what's the key? The key is having the picture on the cover of the box so you know what you're trying to create. It's the same thing in retirement. What is your picture for your retirement? Mindy and Nolan can then help you put the pieces to the puzzle together. As Mindy said, the number 877-222-8849, 877-222-8849. More about the psychology of money with Mindy and Nolan right after this. This is Wealth Michigan with the McIntosh.
Of all the questions you get asked every day, this is one you shouldn't ignore. How much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Not what its current value is, but how much of it will end up in your pocket, not the government's. Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money. Make sure you aren't overpaying. Keep every dollar you're entitled to. Look, I know it's confusing, it's complicated, and it's definitely not fun. That's why at McIntosh & Associates, we work with tax professionals to help make sure you aren't paying more in taxes than your fair share. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Call our team at McIntosh & Associates today. Get started. 877-222-8849. 877-222-8849. Don't do the IRS any favors. 877-222-8849. Firm offers insurance services and may not give tax advice. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Schedule your complimentary first visit with the McIntoshes right now. Call 877-222-8849. That's 877-222-8849.
Glad you're with us today for Wealth Michigan with the McIntoshes, Mindy and Nolan. You can always find out more about the team, wealthmichigan.com, wealthmichigan.com. Here to help you with all your retirement needs, Social Security, Medicare, income, investment, taxes. There's just so many moving parts, legacy, estate planning. There's just a lot of moving parts. The team's here to help. The number, anytime you'd like to call them, leave them a message if they're not available. They'll certainly get back to you as soon as they can. But they're here to help. They just don't know if they can. They're really here to help you create your dream-focused wealth plan, that retirement strategy. 877-222-8849, 877-222-8849. You can find out more on the website, of course, wealthmichigan.com. All right, we're talking about the psychology of money, and this is a book written by Morgan Housel. He's a partner at a Collaborative Fund, a former columnist at the Motley Fool and the Wall Street Journal. And kind of the theory is it's like we're putting the entire world of finance is putting the cart before the horse when it comes to how we learn about financial concepts and then how we implement them in the real world. We talk a lot about financial knowledge and know-how, but today we're talking about psychology of money. So, Mindy, here's another comment from Morgan Housel about the psychology of money.
If you get caught up in the excitement of a bubble, none of your intelligence, none of your academic credentials, none of the fact that you know the formulas, none of that matters if you're going to lose your cool when it matters most. That's why the behavior is not just an important part, it's really the base of the pyramid. And until you've checked that box of figuring out your own financial psychology, none of the analytical skills matter until then.
So, Mindy, certainly you can get super excited because the markets are rolling, right? We can be really excited, and people kind of think they can time the market. I mean, Warren Buffett doesn't even try to time the market. It's an impossible thing to do. But the other side of that would be what you were talking about in the last segment, talking about people that have so much money in cash because they're nervous, and then they might put some money in a CD because it's safe, but yet they're losing money to inflation. And it used to be the old 90s rule, 4% rule was you put 60% in stocks, 40% in bonds. And now the bond world's not very good. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that are moving here that I would think education is really a big part of what you and Nolan do when your clients come in.
Sure. And it's just key is, if folks have, let's say that they're a year out from retirement and 95% of their portfolio is all invested in the market, and it's, let's say they're soaring currently and feeling like, I've got this, and I'm watching my account, it keeps going up, and my goal is to hit $1 million or whatever that person's goal might be. Well, they need to be careful they're not just chasing that number. So we want to make sure they're not chasing the number and saying, hey, I'm almost there. It is definitely much better, in our opinion, to say, wow, let's take a step back. Let's look at this from the ground up, kind of, like we were just listening to, and realize how much risk do we really have and how much can we really stomach. So let's stress test that and take a look at what if we do see a downturn. Now what's going to happen to get back where you're at? Do we have enough time to make that change? And how would that affect you emotionally? How would that affect your goals and your dreams inside of retirement?
Yeah, and it's one of those things, too. A lot of people think, that if they put it in here, and I can show them, I have a nice little Excel spreadsheet that I show people sometimes that are, they think that all 8% are created equal. And it's funny because I can show that if we do something to help hedge losses, because in our opinion, a loss is worse than having a gain. And so when we look at it from that perspective, that lens, I can show how an 8%, somebody that has an 8% return over a 20-year period, how somebody can end up with $1 million more than the other person just because of how it's managed. And so a lot of times the unfortunate part is that not that 401k is bad. We should be contributing to the 401ks, things of that nature, to help fund our retirement. But at the same time, if we're not in there and looking at it from the perspective of what's our risk, then sometimes that can get daunting. And so that's why a lot of times we help people walk through that. Even if they're not clients of ours or things of that nature, we can help them walk through and say, hey, this is what we would suggest on your 401k based on what you're at now. And it's surprising. A lot of people don't have no idea how their 401k is allocated. They just set it and forget it, and that's not always the best way to do it, because if there is a downturn in the market, then it's one of those things that we really don't want to have that surprise, right, and then have something happen later. So that's why I think it's important to look at just strategies and where that person is, and again, take the emotional fear hopefully out of that, because that can make a big difference not only on psyche, but if there's a downturn, then it can obviously influence you on staying in the game or not staying in the game.
So you think about it. How much risk are you taking in your portfolio? Are you all in cash because you're scared? But there are strategies that are safe. There are strategies that take a little bit more risk. Everybody's in a little different position. There's not one plan. The Dream Focused Wealth Plan is not just blanketed across everybody that walks in and talks to the team. No, it's all built on whomever they're sitting down with. What do they need? So the idea is just give them a call. Let's walk through this and find out where you are. If there's no cost, why wouldn't you like to know where you are, especially before you retire, instead of waiting till you retire and go, well, I'm not sure this is going to work out, and then call the team. They can certainly try to help you at that point too, but I think it's better to be a little proactive, not reactive. 877-222-8849, 877-222-8849. And Mindy, I would guess during your time, you started your company back in 2004, you've probably had people that come in that have $2 million and it's not enough for their lifestyle, the way they spend money. And you've had people probably come in with a couple $100,000 that are good to go, right?
You bet. Absolutely. It just really depends on what their lifestyle is, what their expenses are. We have folks, you're right, that are going into retirement and buying a $700,000 or $800,000 home and continuously drawing and spending a lot in retirement. They need a lot more than the folks that are really happy, living a little bit more low key. We see a lot of folks that do a lot of gardening and things like that. They kind of have fun with family members. Yeah, they could live on a few $100,000. So you need to make sure that don't be setting yourself up for looking at how much is in my retirement account to actually have a visit with them. Everyone is different. Your goals and needs are different. So call us at the office at 877-222-8849 and let's look at your needs.
So, Nolan, this will be for you. This will be the last cut I'll play from Morgan Housel, the author of the book, The Psychology of Money. One of his first jobs was as a valet at a fancy hotel in Los Angeles, and he learned a lot, he says, from being around a lot of very wealthy people all the time.
I think what was really interesting to me was getting to know some of these people who were driving Ferraris and Rolls Royces. Some of them actually were not even that wealthy. They were like mediocre, successful people who spent half their income on a car lease payment. And that to me was really astounding, because that just blew apart all of the impressions, my first impressions that I had of these people. So that was a really formative experience that taught me a lot about the psychology of money.
So, Nolan, I coached golf at Kansas State University from 1990 to 1997. Bill Snyder, the orchestrator of the greatest college football turnaround in college football history, came to K-State in 1989. So I was there for years 2, and then Bob Stoops, Mike Stoops, all those guys came through. Mark Mangino, they had a great run at Kansas. I mean, there were a great group of coaches through that time. But one of the biggest benefactors of Kansas State athletics at that time was a farmer. And you could be in a room of 20 people or a room of 100 people, and I guarantee you could never pick out, hey, who's the richest person in this room? He would be one of your last choices. So we really can't judge a book by its cover when it comes to, and I imagine when people walk into your office sometimes, you might make a decision, they got a lot of money. I don't know. But I mean, you can't judge a book by its cover, can you?
You can, and we don't care. I mean, that's the nice thing that Mindy and I, came from. My dad retired from GM, so not necessarily wealthy, made a good living, obviously, from GM. Mindy's dad and mom, they were farmers, and then he was a truck driver, and Mindy's mom was who works with us at the office now, but she was a LPN by trade. So we didn't come from wealth, things of that nature, and I don't think it matters. So that's the biggest thing for us. I think some people come and they say, well, they listen to the radio and like, well, we don't have enough assets for them to deal with us, things of that nature. And you don't know until we meet with you whether or not we can help you. So that's one of the biggest things is there's no judgment here. We don't care if you have a lot of money or if you have a little money. we treat you the same. And from a perspective of, does it make differences and challenges for us? Depending on, some people might not have a lot of money. It's still a challenge for us to figure out income for them. And some people might have a lot of money, and it might still be the same challenge for us to figure out where the income's coming from. So it's one of those things that every person that comes in our door is individualized on their strategies. And like you said, it's one of those things that we partner with them. We're advisors. We're not dictators. So we walk alongside them as much as we can, help them walk through that plan to help them figure out what is best for them in their lifestyle. Because that's the biggest thing that obviously we hear is, we want to retire, but we don't want to change our lifestyle. And so that's the biggest thing, is that a lot of people are starting to retire earlier in longevity in life and things of that nature. So we call them go-go years, slow-go years, and no-go years. So it's one of those things that when you retire and you're still in the go-go years, you're going to still spend that money like you did when you were currently working. So it's one of those things that we want to look through and walk through, and there's no judgment. We don't care. I mean, it doesn't matter to us if they're wealthy or not wealthy. We will treat them all the same.
So the team at McIntosh and Associates are really dedicated to developing lasting relationships with all their clients. Because think about it. A lot of retirements today last 20, 30, 40 years, depending on when you retired and how long you live. More and more people are hitting the age of 100 than ever before. So it's really about the relationship and the adjustments that we make to the Dream Focused Wealth Plan as we move along your retirement. They're going to help you assess your financial goals, your health care needs. That's one of the biggest challenges that anybody will face in retirement. Even in your working years, health care is a big, big part of your finances, because a health challenge can certainly cause you some issues. You need a plan. And then they're going to participate in the management of your finances to help guide you along the way. If you'd like to learn more, there's no cost for this. There's no obligation. Why wouldn't you take advantage of this opportunity? Find out where you are. How much risk are you taking? 877-222-8849. They can help you in the investment world. They can help you in the insurance world. 877-222-8849. And again, you want to learn more on the website? You certainly can. It's wealthmichigan.com. wealthmichigan.com. We're headed to our final segment of today's Wealth Michigan with the McIntoshes. Mindy and Nolan back right after this.
2022 will be here before you know it. Act now to make beneficial financial moves before December 31st. Call the team at McIntosh and Associates, 877-222-8849.
Welcome back to Wealth Michigan with the McIntoshes, Mindy and Nolan. Glad you're with us. I'm Mark Elliott. Our final segment's always a short one, so we always come up with some little topic, and sometimes it's Nolan's topic. Well, this time
I love it. It's Nolan.
Yeah,
we call it the Nolan Hour, I think. Not the
we
5
do.
minute.
Yeah, that's really. It's not Wealth Michigan with the McIntoshes. Really, behind the scenes, it's known as the Nolan Hour. Yes. But we're going to go with Mindy for this little 5-minute spiel, because we have spent so much time in the last month or two, really since, I guess, October 15th, talking about Medicare and the annual election period for Medicare Advantage, Part D plans, being able to make some adjustments. Medicare supplements and Medigap, same thing. Don't get confused. There's Medicare supplements / Medigaps or Medicare Advantage. Those are different, but supplements and gap is the same. And Medicare supplements, if I'm not mistaken, and Medigap, we can kind of change throughout the year if we're in decent health, because we have to have usually a doctor's approval to be able to do that. Medicare Advantage is a different beast. So we just finished annual election period. Every year it's October 15th through December 7th to change and adjust Medicare Advantage Part D plans. Now we have another opportunity, the way I understand it, January 1 through March 31st. If we change something and then we're like, ooh, we have buyer's remorse maybe, we do have some options, right, Mindy?
We sure do. So those of you that maybe even have missed the window, right? So you started blocking out all the phone calls, the materials, or maybe you're even just wondering, what on earth is this Part C? Then what's really nice is we can actually take a look at January, February, or March. There's a couple situations where this might be you. If you didn't take a chance to review your Part C Medicare Advantage plan, then you get another one-time switch opportunity the first quarter of the year. Maybe you just want to review. Hey, you know what? I was busy. I missed the window, whatever it might be. Also, what we see, another circumstance that happens is formularies do change from time to time with your prescriptions. So you might get your prescriptions filled in January and realize, oh my goodness, my prescription that I take for diabetes is no longer covered at the copay I thought it was, and now it's twice as much. That is a trigger, ding, 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 that we say, make sure that you call our office. Let's actually take a look. We'll take a look at all of your Part C Advantage plans then and see which formulary tiers it might be better to make a plan switch move. or maybe your doctor just retired, or you just moved, or your physician no longer is accepting the policy that you were once taking. That's happened in a couple of areas in Michigan here. So we can actually have the opportunity, instead of having to remain in that plan for all of 2022, we can take a look at which plans might be more advantageous for you, for the doctors you're seeing. Maybe a new health condition is just on the rise that first quarter. You don't know about it right now, but you go in January or February and you decide, wow, I actually think I need to have a little bit more of a comprehensive, less max out of pocket based on this new occurrence or situation or the way I'm feeling. So it is nice that it gives you a little bit of wiggle room. I call it kind of that breathing room to take a breath and say, if there's been a change in your situation, your prescription plan, the doctors that you see, your health, or even just the way you feel about it, please reach out to our office here at McIntosh & Associates, either on the web at wealthmichigan.com, by making the phone call to, one of our team representatives here at 877-222-8849. And what can happen then is I can sit down and have a visit with you. People don't realize still it does not cost you anything that you need to pay our office to actually run through and take a look at your Medicare concerns. So it's just very advantageous to know that you have this opportunity and you don't have to wait till next October.
So again, that number is 877-222-8849, 877-222-8849. There's no cost, no obligation. Chat with the team. They're here to help. 877-222-8849. Of course, you can always go to wealthmichigan.com to find out more. wealthmichigan.com to find out more.
McIntosh & Associates Incorporated is an independent financial services firm that utilizes a variety of investment and insurance products. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC, AEWM. AEWM and McIntosh & Associates Incorporated are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. McIntosh & Associates Incorporated is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by McIntosh & Associates Incorporated. Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences, including, but not limited to, a need for additional tax withholding or estimated tax payments, the loss of certain tax deductions and credits, and higher taxes on Social Security benefits and higher Medicare premiums. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.